You're standing in line for coffee, and the song that's been looping in your head all morning spills out of the overhead speaker, word for word, note for note. Or maybe you finally decide to quit the job that's been eating your soul, and that same afternoon you open an email from an old friend saying, "We've got an opening? Are you listening?" Have you ever felt it? That tiny, impossible tug on the sleeve of your attention. Most of us have trained ourselves to look away from these moments. We've been taught that coincidence is just the mind's desperate attempt to find order in chaos, like seeing Jesus in a piece of toast or Elvis in a cloud formation. But what if we've got it backwards? What if the real delusion isn't seeing meaning where none exists, but missing meaning that's been there all along? Let me tell you about the greatest theft in human history. Not gold or land or oil, but something far more valuable, our birthright to read the poetry of existence itself. It happened gradually over centuries. The Enlightenment, that brilliant explosion of reason that gave us medicine, technology, and the scientific method, also convinced us that anything you couldn't measure, weigh, or replicate in a laboratory was essentially worthless. The triumph of logic came with a hidden cost. We became fluent in the language of facts, but forgot how to speak the language of meaning. We learned to dissect the world, but lost the ability to dance with it. Carl Jung had a name for this cultural amnesia. He called it the Great Imbalance. The moment Western civilization became so intoxicated with outer knowledge that it abandoned inner wisdom altogether. We became experts at manipulating matter and novices at understanding the messages that matter sends us in return. Let me tell you about the moment Jung stopped being a psychiatrist and started becoming a translator between two worlds. A woman comes to his office in Zurich, sits across from Jung in his consulting room, brilliant, articulate, and emotionally frozen. She's the kind of person who can analyze anything to death, but can't feel her way out of a paper bag. For months, their sessions go nowhere. Her mind is a fortress of rationality, and every feeling that tries to approach gets shot down by logic before it can cross the drawbridge. Then she has a dream. She's holding a piece of ancient jewelry, a golden scarab, the sacred beetle of Egyptian mythology, covered in hieroglyphs she can't read but somehow understands. She tells Jung about it with the same detached curiosity she might use to describe a crossword puzzle. "Interesting symbol," she says. "Probably represents transformation or something. Dreams are so predictable." Jung is listening, but he's also watching her face, seeing how she uses intellect like armor against her own soul. And then, tap, tap, tap. Something is knocking on the window behind her chair. Jung opens it, and in crawls a beetle the size of a large coin, metallic green gold, its shell catching the afternoon light like a jewel. It's a scarabaeid, the European cousin of the sacred scarab she just described. He catches it gently and places it in her palm. The woman stares at the living coincidence in her hand, and something inside her breaks open. Not her mind. Her mind is still intact, still rational, but the wall between her inner world and outer reality crumbles like wet paper. She begins to weep, not polite tears, but the kind that come from a place so deep you forgot it existed. Jung called this moment synchronicity. Two events that rhyme across the boundary between mind and matter, linked not by cause and effect, but by meaning itself. It's not that her dream caused the beetle to appear. That would be magic, and Jung was too good a scientist to believe in magic. Instead, both the dream and the beetle were expressions of the same underlying pattern, like two instruments in an orchestra playing the same note. Jung developed this idea with Wolfgang Pauli, one of the founding fathers of quantum physics. Together, they proposed something called the unus mundus, the one world, a deeper reality from which both mind and matter emerge. Think of it this way. If you're standing in a house and you hear music coming from two different rooms, you don't assume one room is making the other room musical. You assume there's a single stereo system with speakers in both rooms. Synchronicity suggests that mind and matter are like those two rooms, separate on the surface but connected by a deeper source that we can't see but can sometimes hear. Now, I know what you're thinking. You've heard this before and you've got objections. Good. Let's talk about them. Confirmation bias, says the skeptic in your head. Your brain's reticular activating system is just a search engine. Once you decide something matters, you start seeing it everywhere. Absolutely true. Buy a red car and suddenly every red car on the road jumps out at you. Decide you want a baby and pregnant women appear to multiply like rabbits. But here's the thing, and this is crucial. There's a difference between noticing what you're already looking for and receiving information you weren't seeking at all. True synchronicity doesn't just match your attention, it hijacks it. It arrives with a quality of surprise, a timing so precise it feels choreographed, and a relevance so specific it's like the universe read your diary and decided to help. When Jung's patient dreamed of a golden scarab, she wasn't beetle hunting. She was trying to understand why she felt so disconnected from her own life. The beetle didn't just appear. It appeared at the exact moment she needed a bridge between her rational mind and her neglected soul. Okay, says the skeptic, but what about apophenia? Humans see patterns everywhere. We find faces in clouds, hear voices in static, see conspiracy theories in random events. Again, fair point. Our brains are pattern recognition machines, sometimes so eager to find connections that they invent them. But there's a qualitative difference between seeing a face in a cloud and receiving what feels like a direct message from existence itself. Apophenia is passive. It's seeing shapes in randomness. Synchronicity is active. It's receiving specific information that addresses a specific need at a specific time. The woman in Jung's office didn't just see a beetle and think, oh, that's interesting. She saw a beetle that perfectly matched her dream at the exact moment she was describing that dream, in a therapeutic context where she needed to connect with something beyond her intellect. The meaning wasn't projected, it was received. And then there's the big one. This is unscientific. This is magical thinking. You're cherry-picking coincidences and building a worldview out of statistical noise. Let's be clear. Jung himself called synchronicity an a-causal connecting principle. He wasn't claiming it violates the laws of physics. He was suggesting it operates alongside them, a parallel system of organization that deals with meaning rather than mechanism. But here's where it gets interesting. Modern physics has shown us that the universe is far stranger than our common sense suggests. The observer effect in quantum mechanics shows that the act of measurement affects what's being measured. Quantum entanglement demonstrates that particles can be mysteriously connected across vast distances. John Wheeler, the physicist who mentored Richard Feynman, went even further. He proposed what he called the participatory anthropic principle, the idea that observers don't just witness reality, they participate in creating it. In Wheeler's words, we are not only observers, we are participators in bringing into being the far away and long ago. Now, I'm not claiming that quantum physics proves synchronicity exists. That would be intellectually dishonest. But I am saying that the most brilliant minds in physics have recognized that consciousness and reality are entangled in ways we're only beginning to understand. The universe may be far more participatory, far more responsive to consciousness than we've been taught to believe. So, if synchronicity is real, if the universe does speak in symbols and timing and meaningful coincidences, how do we learn to listen? This is where most people either go completely woo-woo or dismiss the whole thing as unpractical. But there's a middle path, a way to engage with synchronicity that's both open and discerning. I call it the 3 A's. Ask, attend, act. Ask means getting clear about what you actually need to know, not "universe make me rich" or "send me a sign if you're real." Those are spiritual slot machines, not genuine questions. Real questions have weight. They come from a place of genuine need or confusion. Should I leave this relationship that's suffocating me? What's the next step in my creative work? How do I forgive someone who hurt me? Write it down. There's something about ink on paper that focuses intention like a laser beam. It's a contract with your own attention. Attend means cultivating what Jung called alert passivity, being awake and receptive without forcing anything. For the next 48 hours, move through the world like you're the protagonist in a story where the next clue might appear anywhere. Notice overheard conversations, book titles that catch your eye, songs that seem to speak directly to your situation. Pay attention to what Jung called the transcendent function, the moments when your inner world and outer world seem to be having a conversation. Act is where most people drop the ball. They get the message but don't deliver the response. A synchronicity is an invitation, not a guarantee. It's a door opening, not a hand pushing you through it. If an old friend texts you out of nowhere, the synchronicity isn't the text, it's what happens when you actually meet them for coffee. The universe rewards movement. It speaks to those who are willing to dance with the mystery rather than just watch from the sidelines. Here's what happens when you start living this way. The world stops feeling like a random collection of events and starts feeling like a story you're co-authoring. You develop what I call synchronicity literacy, the ability to read the subtle signals that reality sends when you're paying attention. You begin to trust your intuition not as a mystical superpower, but as a sophisticated information processing system that picks up patterns your conscious mind might miss. You start making decisions not just based on logic and planning, but on the felt sense of what wants to emerge through you. And most importantly, you stop feeling like a victim of circumstances and start feeling like a participant in an ongoing creation. Let me tell you what this looks like in practice. A friend of mine was stuck in a job that was slowly killing her soul. She'd been there for 5 years, climbing the ladder, checking all the boxes, but feeling emptier with each promotion. She did the ask, "What's my next move? How do I transition to work that actually matters?" Then she attended. Over the next few days, she noticed things she might have otherwise dismissed. A podcast about social entrepreneurship playing in the coffee shop. A conversation on the subway about environmental activism. A book on career transitions that fell off a shelf as she walked past. But the real message came in the form of an email from someone she'd met briefly at a conference 2 years earlier. The subject line read, "Are you ready for something completely different?" It was an invitation to join a startup working on sustainable agriculture. Not her field, not her background, but something inside her recognized it as her path. The act was saying yes to the coffee meeting, then yes to the interview, then yes to the job offer that paid less but felt like coming home. 6 months later, she told me, "I don't know if the universe sent me that email, but I know that if I hadn't been listening, I would have missed it." This is the invitation, to stop living like you're trapped in a mechanical universe and start living like you're part of an ongoing conversation with existence itself. It doesn't require you to believe in anything supernatural. It just requires you to pay attention to what's already happening around you. The coincidences are there whether you notice them or not. The meaningful connections are weaving themselves through your life every day. The question is, Are you listening? Jung spent decades studying synchronicity, and his conclusion was simple. It's not about magic, it's about meaning. It's about recognizing that we live in a universe that speaks to those who know how to listen. So here's my challenge to you. Tonight, before you go to sleep, write down one real question, something that keeps you staring at the ceiling, something that matters. Then, for the next 48 hours, live as if the universe might slip you a handwritten note. Watch for the conversations that seem too relevant to be random. Notice the books that fall open to the right page. Listen for the songs that feel like they were written for your situation. And when something makes you stop and say, "That's weird, but," don't dismiss it. Don't rationalize it away. Follow the thread and see where it leads. The call is coming in. The only question is, will you pick up? Because in a universe where consciousness and reality dance together, the most radical act isn't believing in synchronicity. It's participating in it. The phone is ringing. Your life is calling. Answer it.